All right, now we have this snare attack. Let's figure out how to get some snare body in there. And in this particular case, when I say body, I'm just thinking in terms of a sustaining thingy. That the transient is so fast, that initial stick click, that it comes and goes. We have to have it in there. We'd be lost without it, but it's not really what our brains aren't fast enough, I guess, to really process that information. If all we have is a little in the beginning, then we don't even really recognize that as a snare. That's just kind of a little cherry on the top of the snare. So let's get some room sound going on in here. And the Superior Drummer room sounds are some of the best I've ever heard. They really got those right, in my opinion. I love crushing them and just sneaking them in there. But in this particular song, it calls for, I think, an effect where it's, you know, dun, 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 pow. So let's see what we got here. And I've got all these routed individual buses within Cubase. Let's hit play. We're still rather boring, but let's see what I've got on the room sound first off. And I want to point out, this is one of the miracles of modern production, but all I've got is the snare trigger in this room. It's as if we reamped that snare, or a drummer's in this mega room, Avatar, I guess, back when that existed, and he's just going pop, and we're recording that. No cymbals, no toms, none of that junk. And the real drum sound is really cool for what it is. But man, when you want just the snare to crush, and I can have that huge ambient sound, but maybe we don't need that for everything else. Maybe we don't want the toms and cymbals getting all trashy. Well, we don't have to. So we can always go back and get other ambience later. I would probably just render this track down once I got it right, and then use that as my snare reverb of sorts. But anyway, so I want this thing to really pop, and right now, it's not. And I play it around with this heavily with all my fancy compressors, all these, ooh, there I go making noise again, all these UAD and really expensive plugins. And what I like to do with these videos is see what I can do with the cheap stuff, because I don't know, a lot of you guys don't have $1 zillion, and like when UAD was once $6,000 for their entire plugin package, it can be intimidating. But what I'm finding is I'm pretty damn happy with the Cubase stuff, which makes me wonder why the hell I bought the other stuff. But anyway, I'm slamming the living crap out of this. Well, I'll go and show you what I end up doing. Yeah, listen to that. I mean, that's pow, pow. To me, that is freaking good. I like that kind of crap. Yeah, I've kind of grew up in the 80s. Leave me alone. But the thing about this sound is I'm slamming it hard, but I'm blending it in where it's not what I'm going to call corny. And you may or may not agree, but when we go too damn loud with this kind of sound, let's just go 6 decibels up, and that may not be enough, but to show what I'm talking about. But let's listen. It's drawing too much attention to itself. And this is one of those things where subtlety done just right, it sounds mean or raw, but if you do it too much, it actually gets wimpier, or I don't know, trying too hard or something like that. And so what I've done is I just snuck it in there where it's mean and it's aggressive and it's really filling out that snare, but without being too, I guess, overt about it. And I think this is what, at least in my mind, I would have no problem doing this on a 2013 metal production or whatever. I feel like it's a modern sound that holds up because I've not taken it too damn far. Now, let's look at what I'm doing on the compressor here. Well, you can see tons of compression. So I got the threshold on -50, which means we're reducing. Well, let's find out. Well, we're reducing all of it. It says -55 here. I guess that's reduction. If it's what I'm thinking it is, which who knows about these, compressor numbers are always stupid, but it says we're knocking off 55 decibels. And this is what I was talking about this sound design business. Abuse this stuff. Work fast. I don't really care what the numbers are, but I guarantee if you asked me, Brendan, do you think you'll be knocking off 55 decibels off your room sound with compression? If you asked me that today, I'd probably go, probably not. That seems like a whole bunch. But the big thing, to reason that number is so high is because I have the attack on 0.1 and the release, well, release doesn't matter, but because we have the compressor set so fast, there is an initial transient there that we're knocking off completely because we want to bring all the sustain up. We don't care about the attack because we have that on, we did that on the video before this. My ratio is really high, and again, we're just acting like a limiter. Now, playing with the release here is going to make or break this sound. And I set it on 104 because that really made sense to me. If you crank the release up too high, the compressor hangs on too long, and you never hear that. You know, you don't ever get that suction, that in there. So release too fast, and you won't hear the suction either because it just kind of mushes up. And I guess I can go and show you guys that, but I want to remember that I'm at 104. So let's play with the release just a little bit and see what happens. You can see with the release on the fastest, we're a lot trashier. We can hear more distortion from the low end getting distorted, which is what happens when the release is too fast with low end material. But it's a little bit much for me, I played with that. Watch when we go back to 104. And if we wanted to be more bold and more obvious, we could leave this release hyper fast. All right, now let's go up to like 250 and see what that does. When the compressor doesn't let go, we're not going to hear our cool sound near as much. So let's see. And it's still in there, that same screaming pow. But by the compressor hanging on just a little bit more, it just gets a little bit tame. Too tame for me. So like I said, I like the 104, so I'm using it. You can do whatever you want, and if you want to go nuts and use, you know, the fastest release you got, have fun, knock yourself out. Okay, so let's listen to our snare now. The video before this, we added quite a bit of attack, and I wish I could say just thunderous, tremendous attack, but our two-bus is already busy, and we're already at competition loudness. So a big deal, and probably something we'll have to back off here in a little bit when we start playing with guitars and whatnot. But, so we're never going to get that attack. I really, really wish I could somehow. But we may be able to fake it a little bit closer. But we do have a pretty damn good attack, and now we've got a pretty damn good sustain. We can't get away with the sustain in a fast song. This wouldn't work in a, you know, really thrash, really hardcore stuff. But that's just the point. Is this song was a low tempo, and it's screaming for that, in my opinion. I think we covered this before, so you definitely would want to hold back on crushing a room like that much on a fast tempo song. This is one of those things that they really can't teach you in science slant. There's no rule for it. And that's when you just develop your instincts to hear things and adapt to it. And that's why mixing every song is different. And that's why these people that want their whole album to sound consistent, and so a lot of people will try to use the same settings for every song. That's the exact opposite way to get a consistent, quote-unquote, sound. Because songs for most bands change heavily in terms of tempo and arrangement and all this business. If you want a consistent sound, mix them all individually and nail it, and they will sound consistent. So anyway, this particular sound only works for slow tempo, so that's important. I wanted to point that out. Okay, so let's look at our snare here real quick. Let's listen to the attack and the sustain of it. That's a pretty badass snare if you ask me.